This is Patricia Huddle, and this is the third segment in assembling your prototype. We're up to the point where we can now put in the invisible buttons and coding. And invisible buttons are something that might be new to you if you haven't worked in Flash very frequently, especially setting up prototypes. But an invisible button is very simple. It is a symbol of a button that only has a hit state. So that's why I went up to Insert, New Symbol. Here, I'll click on this. Now insert New Symbol, select of the three kinds of symbol the button type, and I'm going to name this symbol Invisible, just so that when I see the name of it in my library that I'll know what it is. Naming it invisible doesn't make it invisible. Now I'm inside of my button symbol, and we see the crosshair area, and that lets me know that I am at the corner point. This represents the upper left-hand corner, or the 0, 0 point. And the purpose of an invisible button is really simply to make a hotspot for clickable items. I'm going to change my color here so that you can see this. I'm just going to change it to green and draw a simple rectangle. I didn't draw it precisely in the right-hand corner. If I select on it, you can see it's off slightly. I'm going to set that to 0, 0. That's very important because you want to know that the outline of the button is in fact right at that corner and on that shape. Otherwise, it can throw off your alignment of various other objects. So I have the artwork in here, and normally when we're making a button, we create the up state, which is the normal, the over state, which shows some sort of a change, color or styling, down state, which shows it's pressed. And we don't really think about the hit state, but the hit state is the active area. And so in this case, we only want the active area, so that this can be an invisible button. So I took my artwork and I dragged it into that hit state, and I'm done. That's all there is to it for making an invisible button. So I'll go back up to my scene, and I'm going into my library, and you can see that here's this invisible button, and it doesn't show as being anything. I'm going to drag it onto the stage, and now you see this blue-green area, and this box that you're seeing is Flash's way of representing the button element. And so I have it on my screen. And once I have it on the screen, like any button, I'm going to have to give it an instance name, and I'm going to call that my How button. And I use the suffix of btn on my buttons. It's a little old school, but I've been working in Flash for a long time, so it's just habit at this point. When I brought this in, I happened to bring it in on the ActionScript layer. When you're working with buttons, ideally you should have them on a layer by themselves so that it doesn't cause you to inadvertently grab your artwork. Again, I'm trying to do things very quickly, so I'm going to try to save myself some time here and leave them on the ActionScript layer. And I'm going to go and drag another copy of this over top of the credits, because that's going to be a clickable area as well. And call it credits btn. One of the reasons that I use the suffixes is if I want to name things the same as my labels, there won't be any problems in my ActionScript. There won't be any confusion if I'm telling the button to go to the How to Play screen from the How to Play button. But if they both have the same exact name, I could end up with problems in my coding. So I'm just going to finish off this one section right now. You can see that these buttons are persisting across all the frames right now. I don't want that. So I'm going to insert a blank keyframe, and I do this, obviously I do this a lot. And just to save myself from doing this later, I'm going to go in here and insert blank keyframes in all these locations. And you might be wondering, why don't I just put the buttons on the labels layer? I could do that. There are already blank keyframes there. It would probably be fine. That's not typically the method I use, but you can do that if you want. So what I would do at this point is go through and put my invisible button rectangle. I'm just clicking and dragging it. And you can see this is not the right size. So I'm going to go to my free transform tool, or I could select Q on the keyboard, and that would bring up the tool as well. And I'm just going to size that to fit. And name my button. Also, my logo at the top of the screen is one that I want to have always take me back to home. That's a little large. And I'll name that as home button. And I could go through the rest of the movie like this, and I'm sure that you don't want to see me go through every single one of these, so I'll just demonstrate. This is a prototype, so it's only going to have one question that I can go to, so I'm just going to make the entire area a hit area and call this go to clue underscore BTN, and I can just continue on throughout the whole movie this way. But let me show you about how to add the coding so that you can understand what you would do in this case. So I have my how to play button, and I have it selected. It's on my action script layer. Now I'm going to go to my Windows menu, bring up my actions, and I could have done that through the contextual menu as well. And I'm going to open up my code snippet window here. And you want to access the brackets that are here for your code snippets. And you have your choice between HTML5 canvas and ActionScript. We're doing ActionScript. So I'm going to choose my timeline navigation and choose from the selections here. I'm going to choose click to go to frame and stop, because I want this to go to a location on the timeline and stop when it gets there. And then I'll double click on it, and it automatically inserts the code for me in the window, and you can see that it made an actions layer. Up in the top, it tells me what the script is going to do, and because the button was already named, it names the script accordingly. So it's going to attach the event listener to the how to play button, and it makes a function name when it makes the function, and then it tells it go to and stop at a location. And that is the one thing in here that I have to change, is I have to tell it where to go. And this is going to how to play, so I'm going to type in the name of the label. And something else that I should have done on this screen, I'm going to just eliminate that to save space. I should have put in a stop action on the first frame, because if I don't put a stop action in on the first frame, the whole movie will just run straight through, and that wouldn't be good. So we always have to start with a stop in our actions, and the rest of this will work. Now I'm just going to test this one button. I'm going to close my actions, close the code snippets there, and do Control. And I see my test movie is set for in Flash Professional, which means it'll work on this computer. I'm just going to click Test. And what you'll see happen is the invisible buttons will in fact become invisible. You will not see the blue-green. But when I roll over those areas, the cursor changes to the click. And my how to play goes to the play screen. You can see that I do have these as clickable areas, but I don't have any script on them currently. And so what I would do is I need to go through the rest of the movie and add the rest of the scripting. And I will do that in the next movie if you care to see how this builds out.